Hello and welcome back. We took a little break from the podcast, but in this week's episode, I have the lovely Aoibhinn with me. You want to say hello?
Hello.
So, I knew Aoibhinn before I came out to Bali, and I was in contact with you like a year before I came out here. And I was like, please tell me all the details about coming out to Bali because I'm manifesting coming out there next year.
And I literally was like, obviously, it was like, oh my god, go girl, for being this prepared.
Yeah.
But you were like, it was like
a
a
long
year,
time.
and I was like, why is she like, not why is she doing it so early, but I was like, she's on it, like she's organized. And then you actually like, and a lot of people would text me the same, and then not like follow through with it. But you were like one of the ones to follow through.
Yeah, because
your word.
I was so determined because when I met you in Ireland in the gym and we were talking and you were like, I'm moving out, I was at that time, basically Bali was on my like stopover list because I was like, maybe I'll go to Australia eventually. That was always in my head. And then when I was chatting to you more and I was like following your life on Instagram, I was like, oh my God, Bali looks like somewhere I need to be.
Sold it pretty well.
Yeah,
I was
you
probably
did.
like bawling crying on the other side of the stories,
But I then was just like, no, I'm manifesting this. I put Bali as my screensaver on my desktop because I was like, this needs to happen. And every day when I logged on to do my work online, that was like the first thing I saw was like Bali on my screen. And I was like, yes, this is what I'm manifesting. This is what I'm working towards.
Yeah, and you were like texting me, like I think putting more actions into like what you want will like bring it about quicker, you know what I mean? Like getting like say merch printed and like you messaging me and seeing like where like, you know, organize it so it's in your head that it's like planting the seeds and then they're growing as you're like putting the work in, you know?
Yeah, because that's something I've always done with like ideas or like goals is like tell someone about it and then I'm just like, right, it's out there in the universe, I've put it out there, I need to now work towards it.
Yeah, and loads of people are scared to actually like tell people their future plans. Like one, like gatekeeping, like I don't want anyone else to have my idea. Or two, they're scared of their own, they're gonna fail, so they don't want to tell people so that like the people won't be disappointed in them and they won't be disappointed in themselves, they don't reach it. But I think like you said, almost like telling people, like putting it out there is like holding yourself accountable. And like it kind of gives you that like, do you know when you document your like cut or your something on like line, it's like, okay, I'm not gonna like slip up because it's online and like people are gonna see me like losing weight and getting more shredded, you know? Or, like anything like.
But it's very common for people to do that, is like document their journeys on Instagram, especially like when it comes to like doing a cut or whatever.
Yeah, fitness.
But when it comes to me manifesting being in Bali, you were like the first person I told because I was just like, no, I need to find out all the details so I know exactly where I need to like set the bar for myself, where I need to like put action into. And I think that's a mistake a lot of people make with manifesting, is like they'll just like write something down and be like, yeah, I'll expect that to happen.
Yeah.
When in reality,
yeah, exactly. Like you need to put the inspired action. It shouldn't feel like, oh, fuck this, like a chore. But like you should make it excited. Like you should feel like expanded, like thinking about it and being like, oh my god, this is happening. Like it's so exciting because like you know it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're like, oh, like I have to go do this, then it's not for you in a way. You know what I mean? Like there's thought, effort. Like when you think about it, you're like, this is such an effort. And there's actually stuff that actually when you go to do it, it doesn't feel right, and you should know the difference. Like sometimes if you're like, okay, say you were going on a trip to somewhere far away, and you're like, oh, the effort of this flight, but you're feeling excited about it, but it's just like you're thinking yourself into like that's going to be a lot of effort. And then there's other times when you have a flight, say a trip booked, but you know it's not for the right reason and like it doesn't make you feel good and you're like, oh, you know what I mean? So you don't know the difference between like feeling like it's good for you and like just thinking like, you know, like putting resistance with your thoughts or out of fear and anxiety or procrastination because like you're scared of going or something. Does that make sense? Like, I kind of...
No, I completely understand that because for a long time, like I struggled with self-belief, and it was like with what you just said about procrastination is like I was pushing my fear of failure further and further on in the day. So let's say if I had to do a task that involved a skill that I had or doing something that I could potentially like fail at or not be good at because of my thoughts, I would push it out and like avoid it as much as possible when I knew that I had to complete the task.
Yeah.
But I would just like push it further and further down in the day and be like, no, I'm just going to deal with that later.
Yeah.
Because I was just so afraid of failing. But ultimately, if I had have just told myself, no, I'm good at this, I have the skills to do this, I know what I'm doing, I would have got the task done and taken a lot more pressure off myself.
Yeah, like they call it like paralysis by analysis. You know what I mean? You're analysing it so much that you're like, you don't know where to start, what to do. But like that's what I think, like that's what I'm trying to say. If like something is for you and you want to manifest it, like you'll feel excited about it, and like the steps will just like come easy. You know what I mean? It's just like you plant seeds, and then like just like things come into your life that you are inspired to do. It should never be like a effort. And if it is, there can be times where it is that, but one of it's like either like a thought one, or it genuinely is a feeling that like this isn't good for me, you know?
Yeah. And do you think that that's the universe telling you like this is not for you, you shouldn't?
Yeah, like, and that, yeah, I sometimes like you just need to know the difference between, is it you and your fears and your like paralysis, or is it genuinely like, okay, this is the universe telling me that it's not good for me. Like happens like in relationships and stuff, you know, like you could get with someone and you don't feel good about it, but is that because like you're used to like bad treatment in the previous relationships, or is it because like this guy genuinely doesn't have good intentions for you? You know, you just have a feeling. But the one, how you decipher between them is, one is like you actually feel it in your body, or like I feel all my emotions in my chest, that's why I always hold my chest, I'm like thank you, or like, or else is it like, is it from like, so one in your body, and then one, is it just your thoughts, like your self-esteem thing telling you that you're not good enough, blah, 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 you know? So I think there's like, with manifesting, there's like a inspired action, or else like a thought. I don't know what I'm really saying.
No, I know where you're coming from, because you're saying like, is it coming from a place of the universe actually telling you that this is not for you, or is it just you telling yourself that you can't do it?
Basically.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from. But when did you get into manifesting? Do you even know? Because I don't think I know.
No, I think it's like really built into us as children.
Right.
Like, so manifesting like comes along with like visualization, and visualization is your imagination, and your imagination was given to you as a gift as a child.
Oh my God.
Like we're so imaginative as children, like you know what I mean, like we're playing with Barbies, we're like thinking of these games on the yard in school, like you're literally playing astronaut, you're pretending you're on the moon and you're in like a concrete yard in school, do you know what I mean? So like it's like it comes from, manifesting is like comes from you being a kid. Like so when you're like, oh, when I grow up I want to be a fireman, and as you're a kid you're like playing, like pretend to put out fires and stuff, and some people do grow up to be firemen or nurses or doctors or fucking singers or presidents, like, do you know what I mean? And because like when they were kids they wanted to do that, so like I don't think we ever really get into it. I think it's just like given to us, and it's like as we grow older and like we're conditioned by society, and like we see, you know, we take on other people's fears and other people's beliefs, it like dampens our ability to visualize and dampens our ability to be like creative and imaginative, because it's not like the right, like not everyone does it and you're just going to be told what to do because you're like getting conditioned again by society. But like I think the best way to like manifest or be like aligned with your true self is like go back to being a kid again. Not obviously like being in a restaurant and throwing your food around and shit like that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like
Drawing
do
on
things,
walls
like throwing tantrums because your food's taking too long, like, but like do things that like bring you the same joy that you had when you were a kid. So like they say between the ages of like 7 and 14 is like, and obviously when you're like 5 and like a baby and stuff, but like do things that like you did between the ages of 7 and 14, like they're obviously things that you do for like the most joy. There wasn't like any career driven behind or money making like thought process behind it. It was just out of pure joy because you loved ballet or you loved basketball, do you know what I mean? So you did it. So they say like to go back and like do those things again and like relight that like inner child in you, and like that's where like you can like manifest from, because like you're on the frequency of like the highest joy just because it's pure joy and like fun and stuff, you know?
Yeah. Sometimes I wish I could go back to being a kid where I just didn't overthink everything.
Yeah.
Because I feel like as you grow older and you hear other people's opinions, and as you said, like you take on other people's fears, other people's doubts and insecurities, it's like it becomes chatter in your head. It's like a radio that you can't turn off. unless you do things like meditation and stuff where you just let those thoughts pass. But I would love to go back to being a kid where you literally didn't overthink everything, or just they have this energy that is, you just can't burn it out. Like,
No.
do you ever see a kid?
It's like infectious.
Would you ever see a kid outside and their friend calls them from across the road and they're running? Like, they're not just like, yeah, I'll be there in a sec. Like, they're running.
Yeah.
Like,
They're
what
so
you need?
enthusiastic about everything. Do you know what I mean? They're so honest. Like, and if you like ask a kid like, what do you think of this? They're so straight out. Do you know what I mean? Like, because they're not thinking, oh my God, if I say that to her, she's gonna be highly offended.
Yeah.
Do you know, it's only when they start to say something and their mom's like, you shouldn't say that, like that's mean, then they they put two and two together. Okay, saying this is gonna hurt someone's feelings, so I can't say it. Do you know what I mean? But even in the gym, there was kids in the gym this morning and like they were doing ball slams and core roller and all like for fun and like picking up the weights. And, like, for me, I'm like, oh, fuck that. Like, that's an effort. Do you know what I mean? That's a workout for me. They were loving it. Like, breaking a sweat, like, doing punching and all, boxing. And, like, they were loving it. And that was just, like, fun for them. Whereas, like, we're, like, they do everything with enthusiasm, everything with, like, fun. And, do you know what I mean? I feel like we should all just be more like children. Yeah. But, you know, like, in a composed way.
But, like, I think kids treat, like, everywhere like their playground. And I think, like, that's where adults, like, fall out. I'm not saying like act like your office job is a playground, you know what I mean? But like when they're in the gym and they see like the slam balls and the core rollers and the weights and stuff, they're like, oh my God, I get to pick up this weight. Whereas we're like, oh my God, I have to pick up this weight. Like I have to do this, have to do that. And I think where we lose that connection between our adult self and our like younger self is like we go from being like, this is such a novelty, we get to do all of this stuff, we have all this freedom, to like, oh, I have to do this every day. I have to wake up every day and go to work. I have to do, you know what I mean?
It's like those, I think we had this conversation the other day at dinner and I was saying like there's like words that you can use that are like, there's like need and have to, like I need to, I have to, like which are like very like pressure words and like forceful, like when there's like I get to and I want to. Do you know what I mean? So you're like, oh my God, like I have to go work out at 9. Like you don't have to go, but you actually want to, do you know what I mean? Because you know, okay, I'm going to feel better after this workout, have it done for the day. But when you say have to, it's like a pressure word. It's like comes from our masculine and our feminine, like, and our have to and need to and stuff are like all come from structure and masculine. And like I want to and I get to and I just feel like I want to do it is like very feminine. Do you know what I mean? And like that's what like we need to balance the both. Like if you live a life where it's like, you know, like you're always grafting, making money, like you're forcing yourself to go to the gym, you're forcing yourself to eat like your 5 meals a day, even if you don't feel like them. There's a like structure, and like this is where you're gonna feel like burnout and like your life is just like work all the time and like hustle. Like it's not enjoyable. And then there's like times where like I want to eat this like cinnamon bun, I want to work out, I'd love to just go on a walk today, I'd love to like sing in the shower, you know what I mean? Like and again, like your childlike self comes a lot from the feminine because you're just being, you know what I mean? You're like, you're doing things out of like joy and pleasure and the want to do it rather than like forcing yourself to do it.
And I think then you have the like, again, analysis paralysis because you're like, oh my God, I have to do all of this work. I'm not arsed. Like, yeah. And like, yeah, like that, like you just, your life becomes like a chore, like, but like you can't live all in the being of like, today I'm gonna wake up and just like be a stay-at-home mom, like, do you know what I mean? Like some people do, but then that turns into chore as well. Like it's good to have the balance of both, do you know what I mean? So yeah, being like we are human beings at the end of the day, are like, okay, it's like, I don't know how to say, like as entitled as a sound, we're meant to just be, do you know what I mean? Before like work came about and bills and shit, like we were hunters and gatherers. We just like woke up in the morning when the sun came up, we went and hunted for food and looked for new houses to like live in and collect berries and our prime functions, you know what I mean? And then they weren't like looking at the watch being like, shit, like we need to get this within 2 hours or like I'm a failure, do you know what I mean? And like that was like they're like, we're human beings at the end of the day, that's where it comes from. So like we do also need to be. So I think having a balance between your masculine and your feminine of being and doing is like a happy life. For the people that are new to like masculine and feminine energy, how would you differentiate between the two of them?
I mean, I'm like no fucking expert on this. Like,
No, neither am I, but I have a rough idea of how I use that like saying of masculine and feminine energy to
and it's not and like, okay, so every human being has like a masculine, has a feminine. It's not like if you're a fella like picking up big staunch iron in the gym that you're masculine, like, do you know? Like, yeah, like I said, like masculine is like very structured, like I, you know, doing like working 9 to 5, like I have a to-do list. Yeah, like I have a to-do list. Like I provide for my family. You know, like a lot of structure. And then your feminine is again like listening to your feeling, your intuition, you know, what you do just for fun. Like and then there's like, so that's your feminine is like your being, and then your masculine is your doing. And yeah, like a lot of times we have something that we love to just like do like for fun, but then you can also sometimes bring like structure into it and like make a job out of it, and that's like really good because you're doing your passion with structure and make a career or purpose or like a living out of it. But then sometimes we can go too much into the like too much structure on our being stage and like turn it into a chore. Do you know what I mean? And it's hard like to find the balance between everything, like, you know.
Yeah, and then there's like the people that are naturally like living in one side, either predominantly masculine energy or predominantly feminine energy. I know that I'm predominantly in my masculine feminine my masculine energy, because I went to see a healer last week, and he told me, he was like, you're in your masculine energy too much, and he's like, you need to do more things that you enjoy just because you enjoy them.
Yeah.
And then he told me that I was a man in my past life, and I was like, maybe that explains the masculine energy. But I think that I've grown up always with like structure, routine, drive, always getting shit done, and along the way lost the being aspect of it. And I think since we had that conversation the other night with Keeks as well, is just like me realizing that most of my life is spent in the get shit done, like I always have shit to do, whereas I'm just like, okay, but what if I just was present for a minute and was just living.
Enjoyed it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and just like, yeah, I don't know, like how, like what about if you just like, you know, there's time and place for everything, but like even when you're sitting on the couch and like you've done your work for the day, then you're still like thinking, okay, like what next? Okay, tomorrow, da 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 da. But that's still in your masculine. Like you're not allowing yourself to just like, I'm gonna watch TV because I want to, and like I'm gonna order like a pizza because I feel like it. So like you're not, even if you're like, well, I am just being, I'm sitting on the couch right now and doing nothing, or like I'm going for a walk, but you're still like not mentally checked out, like you're still in your being and doing, like, you know, it's so hard for us humans, again, because like society is conditioned to be like graft, hustle, you know, you're lazy if you're lying, like if you're sitting down, you know.
Hustle culture is like brainwashing, and
as females, hustle culture can really is not good for us in a way, because if we like live our life, like we're females, we have a cycle, we have like our follicular phase and our luteal phase, and we have like, say, our period where we should be resting, and like, but people are like, no, like hustle, like go do high activity exercise, like that's when we should be like, you know, chilling, like taking care of ourselves, like nourishing our body, and like you're like, I don't have time to eat, I'm working, and like you're on your period, like if you like live your life by your cycle, that really helps, like to just allow yourself to be, you know. And like we as females, like we're not the same, like that's why like hustle culture isn't really for us as well, you know what I mean? Like it is, but like we're built different to males, so we need to like listen to our body as well.
Because I find that like each month there's like a week where my anxiety will be peak. I will be like, my mood is really low, and my mom knows this, like I'll text her and she'll be like, you know exactly what this is. Like, she's literally every month she's like expecting it on the week, like a text being like, mood has been really low this week, and something that me and my mom are like this, like we are joint at the hip when we're together, and she just knows me like the back of her hand. And when I'm able to text her, it's almost like accountability. It's like,
Yeah.
oh my God, I realize now that this is happening and she's expecting this text. So this is a trend. I realize now that at this time each month I need to actually just give myself a break.
Yeah.
Rather than like finish up work, close the laptop, and then open back up the laptop and be like, no, do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to write a book. I'm going to create a course. I'm going to like plan
to be
the next.
multi-passionate. Like,
Yeah,
right now I want to do everything.
Yeah.
And that's like the feminine urge, like to do everything. Because like, but we have like, our periods are there, like, yeah, like as a reminder to like be compassionate to ourselves, you know what I mean? Like, and if you come from a place of compassion, like, okay, right, like understand yourself, like, do you know, they're not there to be ignored. Like, it's our human, as like females on this earth, is our human function to like reproduce in a way. Like, obviously many other talents we're amazing as women, but one of our things is like there to like, it's just something that is like not going to go away. Like, it's our period, like, and obviously people are on the pill and stuff and it turns it all off, but if you are natural and have your natural cycle, like, the best place is to come from yourself, like to come at yourself with compassion, like be like, okay, I am on my period right now, or like even like coming up to your period, like PMS, so I'm like, why am I so crazy? Like, that's gonna make it all worse, do you know what I mean? Or like in your follicular phase when your hormones are going back up and you feel like energetic, like use that to your advantage, get shit done on those days, like, you know, go for your run, you know, be productive on those days, and then when it comes time to chill, allow yourself to chill, like allow yourself not to work out smart, allow yourself the chocolate if you're feeling like it. Do you know what I mean? Listen to yourself. And like, that's again like the thing of being in your masculine, your feminine, is like listening to yourself. Like, there'll be times when we're like, yes, let's go, energy's high, like masculine, woohoo, and then there'll be times when you're like, okay, chill, like, you know, eat chocolate, whatever you want to do, like, and there's no, like, it's different for everybody, like what they want to do for pure joy, just to be, or what they want to do for, like, some people might enjoy like building circuit boards, like just to be, like, that's fun for them, you know what I mean? But for me, that would be like a very much a doing thing. So it's like different for everybody, you know? So like, I can't sit here and be like, okay, so yoga is the doing, is the being, and like work, like going on your laptop is your doing. Like, it's different for everybody. Like, what you get like for pure joy and then what you do for structure are different. That's why I always say go back to what you do as a kid, because that will give you an idea of what you enjoyed just to do for joy, you know, like enjoy, and you enjoyed as a kid, you know. So I don't know, it's different for everyone. Like, it's kind of even hard to I'm like, what the hell did I even do like as a kid, like for fun?
That was me
know?
the other night when you said that. I was like, what the hell did I do as a kid? And I was like, I literally just spend time with friends. Like, I was that kid that my mom would literally have to come out into the estate and search for me at like sundown, because she was like, where the hell is this kid? Like, because I would just be out playing. I used to be playing football with all the lads. Mom used to have to come in and drag me in by the jersey because I was such a tomboy.
Yeah, and like, you could just been like, what was I even doing? Like, I was playing moms and dads and my friends. So like, obviously you're very visual, so like you can use that ability of like being very visual into your like work now, do you know what I mean? So like, you probably be more like someone who like played a lot of imaginary games as a kid rather than with toys. Like, they probably very, very visual persons, so they'd be good at like creative stuff and like good at visualizing and making like mood boards to where they want to go, and you know, like, and then those people that played with toys and stuff and like tractors and stuff, and boy or girl would probably be very good at making things and like with their hands and stuff, you know?
Yeah, get creative.
Yeah, because it's like we use different sides of our brain, and like we're human beings, we're very complex in a way, like, so we're all good at different things, you know?
I remember one year, you know, we used to do Chris Kindle in school.
Yeah.
So one of my friends, Laura, if you're listening, you're a legend, miss you. She bought me like an adult colouring book for my Chris Kindle one year, and I was like, that is the most thoughtful gift ever.
Yeah.
Like, rather than someone like buy me something
like lip gloss
expensive
or something.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? I was just like, that was actually bang on. Like, she really hit the nail on the head that year, and I love that. It was like that thick. It was massive, just full of like patterns, and I just used to like whip out.
Very therapeutic.
Yeah,
like,
so therapeutic. And that really like unlocked a creative side to myself that I had forgotten about. So that was a really, really nice gift. So I think, or even like paint by numbers. I love paint by numbers.
Yeah.
Oh, I miss them. But what it did for me was allow me to like realize what it was like to be present, because at the time I wasn't doing any sort of like meditation, I wasn't doing any sort of breath work, but when I was like painting or when I was colouring, I just felt so like
Yeah,
at
because you're
ease.
focusing on like being in the lines, like making sure there's no white patches. So like all you're focusing on is that.
Yeah.
And that's why like I was talking to about Orna the other day about it, is like why people love like sunsets so much, or you know, like people love being on the beach, or like, because it makes you be so present. So you're not thinking about the past or you're thinking about the future. People are like, oh, the sunset's so beautiful. But like, yeah, it is so beautiful, but it's not like the sunset that is just so beautiful. It's the feeling that the sunset evokes in you to be present. And like, you're not thinking about the past, you're not thinking about the future. Like the colors of it is just so beautiful. Do you know what I mean? So when like experiencing your life and you're attached to them, you're usually not attached to the experience, you're attached to the emotion that it evoked inside of you. And usually evoked that emotion is because you're so present at the time, you know. And so you can, like we said in our podcast, like you can make any moment like beautiful if you just like give your full presence to it. Like washing the dishes, like okay, it's a fucking awful task usually. If you're like, ooh, this water, you know, this sponge, like you can make it like beautiful moment. Like, and that's why when people start doing meditation, once they get into it, or they start doing like breath work, or you know, yoga and stuff, that's why people like love it, is because they see what it's for. Like they see it makes you present, and that's why like the present moment is like why we love things so much. And as a kid, like that's why we had so much joy, is because we were thinking like about your dolls. You weren't like playing with your dolls and thinking like, I wonder what mom's making for dinner. Do you know what I mean? Like you weren't thinking like that, you were just present. And that's why kids are so happy, and like dogs are so happy, like because like a dog's not like sniffing a tree and going like, did my owner walk me today? You know what I mean? Like they're just like present, you know what I mean? And we're like seen to be the only feckin' like mammal or species that like holds on to the past, like, or thinks about the future. Like usually when you think about the past, it brings like grief and sadness, like not all the time, but when you think about the future, it brings anxiety. Do you know what I mean? So like when you're in the present, unless you're genuinely being like eaten by something, or like there's a huge wave in front of you, like, and you're like, fuck, I need to run, usually there's not very much going on in the present where you can just be like, oh, okay, this is nice, you know?
I think a big thing for me with presence is like, I was reading a book and it was about being present in the moment, and it was saying that like 90% of the time everything's okay. And then you're talking about the 10% where there's a threat, there's like a wave about to swipe you away. Oh my God.
Wash you away? What does waves do? Bye.
There's a wave about to smash into you, basically. Or there's like a lion chasing you, or whatever the threat might be. But 90% of the time there's like a roof over your head, there's no threat, you're okay. And I was talking to a guy, I went to a co-working space a couple of weeks ago, and he was asking me, he was like, you're just always so chill. And I was like, yeah. And he was like, how do you do that? I was like, just knowing that 90% of the time I'm okay. Like, and the 10% of the time, it's like my anxiety's high and I'm like, oh my God. But bringing myself back to the present moment, tuning into my senses, like you said, making the most of something. Like if I'm sitting in that co-working space and I'm stressed out about what I'm doing on my laptop, and I recognize that I'm stressed, I'll like look up and I'll be like, okay, be calm. I'm sitting at this desk, I'm in this beautiful country, the weather's nice. I'm just like looking around, tuning into my senses, what I can see, what I can smell, what I have in my hands, the clothes on my back. Like 90% of the time you're okay. And if you can bring yourself back to that and tune into your senses, you can be present then, rather than constantly like being immersed in your work or thinking about the future, anxiety popping up because you're living through experiences twice, and half the time those experiences don't even happen the way you think they will. And then looking back at the past, and if you look back at the past, just like you said, it'll bring sadness, it'll bring grief, because you're reliving emotions that you are ultimately letting dictate your present, when you can just choose. It is a choice at the end of the day to choose to be present.
And like, again, like the analysis by paralysis, so you're thinking like into the future, being like, fuck, I have so much work to get done, like I have this deadline, and then you're like, you're too busy worrying about the work rather than just getting the work done to save your future self. Do you know what I mean? So like the present moment is literally where it's at, guys. Like be in the present, but it's harder. It's like obviously is like easier said than done. Like I'm sitting here being like, yeah guys, like, but I'm the fucking probably the worst for it, or like,
but we all are,
do you know, like we're all like, when I'm saying this, I'm like, even when I'm talking to you, like my head, I'm like, you're a fucking imposter, like,
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
yeah.
But I'm just saying, like, what I want to take my own advice and like what I want people to know. But like that's like, you ever see that book? I think it's called Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers or something. It's because like, okay, like I said, like animals don't think about past or present or past or future. Like, so if they're getting chased by a lion, okay, they see the line's a threat. Like their stress response goes in their body. They run, their cortisol flows their body. They get away, and then they like shake it off and like let the energy come out, let the energy pass through, and they go continue eating their grass. Like they don't like sit there then for the rest of the day and like feck, that lion almost got me. Like, do you know what I mean? And then they know for next time, okay, don't go down to that river. Like it might like store in their head, like don't go down to that river, or like eat on a different patch of grass because that's a lion's territory. Do you know? They remember, but like they don't be like thinking about it. So that's why like we said, like stress causes like ulcers. Do you know what I mean? Because it like you're emotionally storing that trauma in your body, and it's like manifesting as an emotional pain. Yeah,
because my dad actually, he's very good at hiding his stress. Paul, if you're listening, something we need to work on.
Yeah. Paul, let it out. Come on.
But my dad is like one of the most positive people like ever. Every time I ring him and I have an issue, he's very quick to bring me to ground, and he's like, Kelsey, don't worry about it. He's like, listen to this, and I'm like, Paul's spitting facts. He's spitting facts right now, but he's the worst at taking his own advice.
Yeah, see, we all are. We're all fucking imposters.
Yeah,
like.
He's very good at bringing me to ground, but when it comes to bringing himself to ground, like, he'll probably only do it 10% of the time. Like, when he catches himself good and he does, like, his meditation, because I know Paul loves a meditation before bed, he's really, really good at bringing himself to ground, but he is very stressed out, and he holds a lot of, like,
stores a lot of like trauma or like uptight.
Stores it all and stresses himself out, puts a lot of pressure on himself, even though we all love him, we all appreciate everything that he does, but he puts a lot of pressure on himself, and he ended up with an ulcer, and it definitely did manifest from that stress. It definitely wasn't just something like the world, like, I got an ulcer and that's it. It's like, where did that come from?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
And like a lot, like sometimes it can be genetics, like, you know, say people like cancer or whatever, it's like people stress that cancer's in their family, but like we all have cancer cells. It just takes a trauma to bring them out. And like, so like we all do have cancer cells, and like, so like the cancer cells, yes, may have been passed down from our family. Like there's a history of breast cancer in our family. We like, I don't personally, but I'm saying for hypothetically, and like then I have the cancer cells in my breast, say, but stress will bring them out. It's like having like cancer of the skin, and like it's always going to be in there, but it's when you go in a sunbed it brings the cancer out. So it's the same with like stress. Like we all might have a cancer cell, or we might have this like from genetics, but it's when we have the stress that will bring, or the trauma or the emotion stored in our body, and then we'll bring it out, like, and make it come to the surface as an illness.
It's just like opening a door for that to come through.
Yeah, exactly.
And unlock it, because for my dad the ulcer was like stress related, and I know that my dad gets a lot of chest pains when he's anxious, and that mental stress that you're putting yourself under is manifesting itself as physical symptoms. So like, for example, if you have like an injury that isn't like, just won't go away, no matter how much work you do in the physio, no matter how much rehab you do, or
like it goes away and then comes back, like,
a recurring injury or something, just have a look, take a step back, zoom out for a second on the injury, and just say, right, is there anything else that I have to be dealing with in my life, like whether it's stress related or whether it's like dealing
responsibility
with past trauma and stuff like that, because especially being in Bali and meeting people that are so open-minded, there's a lot more like perspective on things. It's not just like, this is what's going on. Your knee problem is just a knee problem. It's like, right, where's that coming from? Do you know what I mean?
And like people are probably like, some people will listen to us and be like, you're talking fucking shit. Like, do you know what I mean? Like my boyfriend will genuinely think I'm talking shit. Like he has a problem with his body, and I'm like, babe, are you like holding a lot of burden? You know what I mean? He's like, Aoibhinn, shut the fuck up. Like, do you know? But personally, I also believe that. Like, I believe, like, and it, like, okay, it can depend on different people, but, like, in a general, there's, like, different, you know, if you have a lot of anger, you'll hold it in your throat. If you have, like, a lot of, like, anxiety and emotion, you'll hold it in your stomach. And then that can, like, if you hold it and don't talk about it and don't, you know, try let it out through, like, journaling, therapy, breath work, whatever, it can come out as, like, IBS or stomach ulcers, or, you know, like, knees. Like, how I first came about this and I learned about it was, there's a girl called Louise Hay, and she has, like, a lot of books, like How to Heal Your Life, like a lot of books on self-love, childhood trauma, like working with your inner child. And she believes that, like diseases are from dis-ease, like something dis-ease with your life. So, like, she believes that, like, different parts of your body are, like, energy points. So, like, if you get headaches a lot, it's, like, means something else. Like, if you have, like, heart problems, it's genuine, like, heartbreak, or, like, you know. So there is, like, you can get her book, or you can look up online if you want, like, a general, like, to see, say if you do have, like, a problem with your body and you're like, I don't know what that means, you can, like, look up and, like, on Louise Hay diseases meaning, and it will give you, like, a general idea of where it's coming from. Like I said, like, throat, anger, knees, stubbornness, like, there's different ones for different things. But I do believe, like, personally, that unhealed trauma or suppressed emotions or stress will manifest as a physical illness. And, like, I think there is, like, I'm not a scientist, but I think there is even, like, scientific studies that every time you have, like, a negative thought or, like, negative emotions, that your brain does release, like, negative chemicals, like, so, like, just think about it, every time that you're thinking something negative, that you're damaging your body, like, do you know? That's still easier said than done, because people know smoking's bad and they smoke, and people know taking drugs and drink isn't good for you, but they still do it. But there genuinely is, like, bad chemicals that your body releases, like, for a fight or flight response, but you're not using it to fight or flight. You're not running away from this problem that you're thinking about in your head, because you're not genuinely, like, physically running, and you're not fighting someone. So you're this chemical that's giving you energy to fight against this trauma, but that's actually in your head. So it's just storing itself in your body, and then, like, creating a problem somewhere to manifest as a physical illness.
Yeah, but it all makes perfect sense. Like, the book that you were talking about, why zebras don't get ulcers, and also, like, The Body Keeps the Score. Have you ever read that book?
I've heard about it, but I've never read it.
Oh, it's so good. You would definitely love it. And it's basically about how the body keeps the score of, like, your trauma and your, like, undealt with emotions.
Yeah, and, like, there is therapy that you can get called, like, emotional freedom technique or body talk.
Oh, wow.
And it's, like, my mom's quite into it, like, and it's basically, like, tapping on, like, you have, like, a gut brain, like a heart brain, and, like, your real brain, and, like, it's, like, tapping on your body to, like, release the trauma, and, like, your body can give your, like, the therapist permission to say yeah or no to, like, like, allow it to work on the body. And, like, therapists of, like, that do on people can, like, see that there's trauma stored from, like, birth, like, when they gave birth. Obviously, being in a nice, soft, cuddly womb, like, is beautiful, and then you just come out to this world, out of this tunnel, and shoot out, and you're like, fuck, like, what the hell? Do you know what I mean? And, like, so that's very traumatic for a child, and, like, that's why you're crying, and you're like, fuck, like, what the hell's going on?
There are all these bright lights, man.
Yeah, like, literally, like, coming out of the cinema,
we've been
like,
snoozing for 9 months.
Like. Yeah, like, and then they're putting this suction thing, sucking your head out, and, like, force, like, open your fucking mom's vagina, and you're coming out, like, it's stressful. Do you know what I mean? So your body can, like, even from then, like, hold stress, and you don't know, but, like, you could have a reoccurring, like, thing in your life all the time, or, like, and it could be, like, it's been as long as you can remember, and it could genuinely be from birth, or, like, when you were a kid, you could have, like, someone could have said something to you and you don't remember it, because our bodies are that, like, you know, mechanically made and, like, strong to keep us safe, that, like, they lock away memories, like, to keep us safe. So, like, someone could have said something to you that really traumatized you, but your body doesn't want you to remember it because it wants to keep you safe. So, like, it's locked in your subconscious, but for some reason it affects, like, your ability to stand in front of a crowd, or, like, have a relationship with someone, do you know what I mean? And like, you're like, why can't I just be like in a relationship, or like, why can't I just speak in front of, like, I've done the therapy, I've done this, like, but your body has like stored it, and usually only comes out from the likes of like emotional freedom technique, or genuine like hypnotherapy, or talk therapy, or breath work, do you know what I mean? That's when it comes up and you're like, fuck, I forgot about that, you know?
But something that like I have recognized is like sometimes when I'm talking to people, or especially when I was doing therapy, is like certain memories would be unlocked, and I'm like, okay, why is this coming up? And then I would speak through that, and I'd be like, oh my god, why did my brain just like push that down or lock that away? What was it trying to protect me from? And that's what I did like a lot of work on in therapy. And I love the term unpacking, because it's literally like, okay, that thought was put away into a suitcase and it was locked, and then all of a sudden you found the key for that.
Yeah.
And you unpacked it, like what is in that suitcase.
Yeah, and it's not coming up just because it's trying to like annoy you, or like traumatize you, or be like, you're a fucking idiot, remember you did this. It's coming up because it wants to be dealt with.
Yeah.
So and the same way, like what we talked about, the like injuries in your body, or they're coming up, like they're showing themselves for a reason, because it's like, if you don't sort this shit out, you're gonna have a fucking heart attack. Or like, if you don't sort this shit out, like it's literally, if you had dealt with that when it was just a thought, like it wouldn't have manifested into an illness, you know what I mean? So it's like, it's coming up as like a stomach ulcer, because it's like, hello, I'm here, like deal with me, or I'm gonna make your life hell, do you know? Like, so that's my personal belief. Like, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a therapist, I'm not a fucking nurse, like that's just my personal belief.
We're here to have open conversations about these kind of things, because it's important that like
you give people a different perspective, like open people's minds to it. But like, I truly believe that like, deal with your shit, or we'll fucking deal with you, you know?
And we're not saying that like you can never get stressed, like never get stressed or you get sick. It's not the stress that's the issue. Like, stress is inevitable, and like feelings and emotions are inevitable, but it's how you deal with them.
Yeah.
And it's the skills that you build to like manage them is what is really key to helping you heal from these physical ailments, or helping you to really deal with these emotions, is like becoming more self-aware and realizing why these things are happening, why these things are coming up, why they are recurring, why you're in constant pain. See what you can do to unpack those emotions and all that stress and stuff like that. And
you can look at yourself with more compassion than when they do come up. You're not like, I'm just a fucking fat bastard because like you can't stop eating. It's like, okay, well, you know, did you do a diet before long ago that like you restricted food for so long, so your brain now thinks like it's a scarcity? Or like, if you can't talk in front of a crowd, you're not just an idiot. Like, look back at your childhood. Did someone say something to you? Do you know what I mean? You can come from yourself with from such a compassionate place when you're aware that like these things are like come up for a reason. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like, I believe like as a kid we're just so pure, we're so like everything's like for fun and inspiration and encouragement, and then like society conditions us and like puts all this like trauma and stuff, and then as our adulthood, like our adult life, our adulthood is spent unpacking what we packed away as a kid when we were impressionable. So our adult life is like to evolve back to that like pure soul that we were, and then like, you know, that's when you're like enlightened or like spiritually awakened. Or like, is death like when you go to heaven? Is that what heaven is, when you don't have any of your trauma left? Do you know what I mean? Like, obviously that's just like very like out there, but you know, like you either evolve or you don't, you know what I mean? And if you don't evolve and you help other people to evolve by giving them trauma, and like there's evolvers or there's people that don't evolve, and like, you know, they give you trauma from like they're not dealing with their own trauma. You know, like an ex could like their parents never evolved to realize that like that's not how you parent, so they could have hit them, and then your ex grows up and might have hit you or might emotionally abuse you, and then you grow up with that, and then you have to deal with that, or else you're going to project it onto someone else. Do you know what I mean? It's very like far-fetched. I know what you mean. You know, I believe like that's how it works. Like, do you know?
But I always say that the people in therapy are there because of the people that didn't go to therapy.
Yes. You know, where like people are like, I've seen that for I'm gonna sort out my shit so I don't pass it on to my child, and like, you know, like repeat the cycle. You know, like people's parents were alcoholics. You could just easily go off and drink. It'd be easier because you don't deal with your shit. Or you're gonna take the hard like pill and the road like less followed and sort your shit out so your child doesn't have to. And like, it's so good to have these open minds, because then we can bring our children up to be more open like, you know, if it kept continuing on and on and on and on, the world would be like such a more beautiful place. Like, your kid's not gonna be like, Mom, like, this girl called me a bitch because she's a fucking asshole. You're gonna, like, I feel really bad for her because obviously she, you know what I mean? Like, you come from, and you get on well with people and you don't take things as personal because you come from, again, a place of compassion and understand people rather than just think they're fucking assholes.
Yeah.
So if someone comes out shouting at you because you parked your car in front of their house,
Yeah.
like, oh God, they must have a really stressful household, or they might be going through something, rather than like, fuck you, bitch, and like, you know, like, go back at them. You can kind of diffuse the situation by coming from compassion.
I know. And like, I'm so interested in psychology and all of this sort of stuff. Like, even the other day, did you see Misha's story? Someone put a note on her car.
Yeah, she was like, someone's having a bad day.
Yeah, and I love that.
What did it say? Like, don't fucking park in front of my house.
She's like, it was like, don't park like a dickhead so people can get into their car. And I was like, yeah, that person was definitely having a bad day.
Heal, honey, heal.
Yeah, whereas like, if that happened to me and someone parked like a dickhead, I wouldn't leave a note. I'd just be like, dickhead parking, and then I just get into my car and drive away. Do you know what I mean? I just let the negative energy out into the whatever, and then just get on with the day. Because what is the point in passing on that energy? Do you know what I mean? Because that person might have been in a rush. They might have just swung in. They might have been late for something. They might have parked it arseways. Yeah, it might be inconvenient for you in the moment, and you might feel a little bit of negative energy from what they have just done, making it inconvenient for you to get into the car. But by writing a note and putting it on their windscreen, you're just passing on your negative energy when you could just like cut it off at the source.
Yeah, like I was listening to a good podcast, like Marissa Pearce with Stephen Bartlett, and she's saying like, okay, negative emotions or like negative energy, like, or what you say to yourself, other people are like bold children or like naughty children, like they just want attention. So like, once you kind of, it's like a vibration or energy, it's coming up. Once you, like, she calls it like AAA, like acknowledge, accept, and articulate. Okay, once you acknowledge that emotion, okay, I'm feeling that anger that someone parked outside of my house, accept it instead of being like, okay, but I shouldn't feel like that because like that's not positive, and like, you know, toxic positivity. So like, okay, like I feel like that, like that's okay to feel like that because it's annoying for me, you know what I mean? Like, and then articulate it, like say it out loud. Text your friend like, oh, so annoying. Do you know what I mean? Or like write it. Like, that's why I love journaling, is to articulate my shit, get it out on paper, and then I don't feel the need to go home to my boyfriend and spread it onto him or dump my shit onto my sister or like put it on social media and piss off everyone else. Like, I just like accept it, like acknowledge, make it aware of it. What did I say?
Acknowledge, articulate, and
acknowledge.
Oh, accept.
What did I fucking say? Acceptance, acknowledgement,
and articulation.
Or acknowledgement or awareness, acceptance and articulate.
Okay.
Sorry, there. AAA, guys.
AAA batteries.
But yeah, I basically just like give it those three. It's had the attention, and now it's now it's flatlined. Like it's done, and then you know.
Yeah.
And like, instead of like going home, dumping my boyfriend, and he thinks I'm a fucking pest because I'm like going on about someone parking outside my house, or like, you know, like sometimes it's just, you're better off just like not saying things and like writing it down or journaling about it so that people don't get the wrong impression of you. Like, if I'm on my period, I'm a lot less tolerant or more like irritated by stuff. So if I like was to tell my best friend or my boyfriend or my sister everything that comes to my mind, they're gonna think that's gonna change the way they think about me or change their impression of me. Whereas I would just wrote it down, or like, you know, I don't know how like else I would articulate it, say it like to myself in the mirror. Then like, and then next week I don't feel like that way because I have more tolerance because like my period's gone or something. Then no one's impression has changed of me because I haven't passed, like you said, passed it on to somebody else, you know?
No, but that is something that when I was listening to that podcast as well, I think Stephen said about passing on energy that's coming from another source. So a lot of like, let's say relationship problems can come from not a problem within the relationship but a problem somewhere else. So he was saying like, if he received a really stressful email and he was reading the email while, let's say right now Aoibhinn and I received a text and it wasn't a text that I was particularly pleased about, and then you were talking to me and I'm like, oh, can you just shut up for a minute? You'd be like, oh my god, she's such a bitch, like why would she dismiss me like that, like that's so rude, why would she tell me to shut up? Whereas in reality I'm not dealing with or I'm not communicating with you why I'm feeling that way. I just be like, oh, Aoibhinn, just can you give me a minute? I need to deal with this text and I'll get back to you.
Exactly.
And then you're not like, oh my god, what did I do wrong? Or like, why is she acting like that towards me?
Like, what story? So like, you're telling yourself story. Like, oh my god, this person is like, you know, like I think they use the example like they got scammed at their bank, and then you're reading that, and then I said something to you, and you like snapped at me, and then I'm telling myself this story that you hate me, or like you're just a fucking rude bitch, but like, you know what I mean? So it's like, what story am I telling myself about what you're doing? Do you know what I mean? So you're like, okay, I just got scammed, I'm really stressed, that's your story. And then I'm taking it personally, being like, she's just rude, but like you're going through something else. You know what I mean? So again, compassion. If you come from a place like of understanding what that person's going through, you won't take it personal. And like that in relationships, a lot more relationships will work with like understanding and like open communication.
And I think that's something I always preach in like friendships, relationships, anything is just communication and just being completely honest, because like
they're uncomfortable conversations to have, but if it feels uncomfortable, it's probably right to do.
And in the long term, it's going to save you so much conflict and so much stress, because you've just straight up said what you needed to say. And if you work through it, then you can leave it on the table, and if it needs a little bit more work, just keep communicating. And at the end of the day, if there's still like resistance, or if there's still negativity within that conversation, then it's probably best to just like
then it's not for you, or like it's, exactly.
But I was going to say something there about that happening to me, like lack of communication within, like me and my dad, we used to like clash so hard, clash so bad. Now we're besties. We have the best laughs, but for so long I needed to communicate with him that either his needs weren't being met or my needs weren't being met by each other, and I don't think either of us knew what we needed from each other, but we just ended up resenting each other because we didn't know that. And it's such like a classic thing. My dad's just like, oh, it's such a normal like father-daughter thing, and I'm like, why though? Why is it such a normal thing for a father and a daughter to clash at times? Like, what is not being met by each other? But then we started to like communicate, and I told him exactly what I needed from him, and he told me exactly what he needed from me, and now we have a mutual understanding of each other, and now we get on so well, because we actually realised that if we just got that out of the way years ago, we'd still be besties,
exactly.
you know?
Like, and that's why like when you have kids, you'll be able to implement that as when they're young, so it's not like you feel like you've wasted your teenage years hating your parents, or like hating, like having resentment towards your kid because they're just a bold kid. If you can understand like why they're doing this, like you can enjoy all the years with them. Whereas I'm the same with my mom. Like I thought, like I just like up until like before I moved here to Bali, like I think my mom's like so annoying, like but she's annoying because she loves me, and like she's worried, like, you know, she's worried about me all the time, like that like I'm gonna, you know, not pay my taxes or something, like, or like your insurance is due, and like I'm like, Mom, I know, leave me alone. Do you know what I mean? So like she kind of wants to still mother me, and I need to understand that, but also communicate to her like, Mom, I'm old enough now, you know what I mean? Whereas I would just be like snap at her and think she's annoying, but like, and then she needs to understand that I'm also an adult and need to have adult responsibilities and do them myself, do you know? Whereas I spent like so much of my years like, oh, my mom's fucking annoying, I don't want to spend time with her because she's annoying. And now I'm just like, if I just like, no, I don't regret anything, but like I like, and now as well have a better relationship with my mom, like, but also like she took on that fear from her mother as well, you know what I mean? Like her mother was probably the same